This is acrylic on canvas, and I painted it several years ago, and this is inspired by my Bharatanatyam classical dance, which I am professional at. So this is a typical pose where this dancer is looking at herself in the mirror, putting a bindi like so, and it's actually carved out in stone in a lot of temples in India. All over India there are temples where the sculptures depict all these different poses, and that's why I named it, I titled it In the Footsteps of Antiquity. So she's just following whatever was there many, many centuries ago. And I have brought out the light effect here, because I just like to paint light, because there should be light in everybody's life. So it's one of my favorite things to paint. And this is a typical, she's wearing typical Bharatanatyam costume, and this is one of the most popular poses from a mythological story, Shakuntala. And actually this story goes back to this woman who is her mother. She's a nymph, celestial nymph, and she's sent down to earth to entice a sage who is in severe penance. And the gods up there are scared that he will take over their powers, and so they send this nymph to destroy his penance. But she comes down, her name is Menaka. She comes down and she falls in love with the big saint, the great saint, and this is the coordinating picture with that, the painting with that. She's in awe of this saint who is called Vishwamitra, and they fall in love with each other. He forgets his penance, and then he just marries her, and they're living happily, and a baby is born to them. But then suddenly the deity who sent her down to destroy his penance recalls her. She has to go back, and at the same time even Vishwamitra realizes the folly that he has destroyed his many years of severe penance. All the powers are gone, so he abandons the child and he goes back to his penance, and she has to go back. She tearfully takes leave of the baby, and they just leave the baby there in the forest, and they go. She goes home. Then that baby turns out to be grows up to be Shakuntala, and she's brought up by a saint. That's why the scenery here is in the woods, in the ashram, and she grows up to be a beautiful girl, and she falls in love with the king Dushyanta, who comes hunting, and they marry, and then she is expecting a baby, but due to a curse by a saint, meanwhile a sage comes to the ashram, and she does not give him the proper welcome that he deserves, and he's angry, and he curses that whoever you are thinking of will forget you. So she just goes to the kingdom, to the king's court, because he doesn't send for her because he has forgotten, and she goes, and he totally disowns her, and she has nothing to show for her, whatever the time they spent with each other. He would have given her a ring with the royal insignia, and which says his name, Dushyanta, but she would have dropped it in a river. And this is a long story actually. And so he disowns her, and she cannot show him the ring, and the curse would have been reversed if she had shown the ring. That would have been the assurance of the saint who had cursed her, right? And then she's very heartbroken, and then she comes out of the king's court, and then Menaka, her mother, comes from heavens, and then she picks her up and takes her to her abode in Indraloka. And then later he remembers, because a fisherman brings the ring which a fish had swallowed, and when he cut it up, he found the ring, and Dushyanta remembers the whole story and he feels very sorry. And then he goes to Indra's court and he sees her there, and his son also is very brave and he'll be like playing with tigers and all. And later, that son, whose name is Bharata, became the ruler of India, and India is called Bharat, named after him. So that's the story of Shakuntala. This is a favorite subject for artists to paint because I think there is this deer, all the deer and all love her, adore her, and because she is in the forest and she's a very sweet girl. And here, when she is leaving to go to her husband's house, the deer, the fawn, is catching hold of her veil as though to say, don't go, don't leave me and go. So that is that. And she is also very sad to leave. So that's the story of Vishwamitra and Shakuntala. Good afternoon. This is Nalini Bhat in Johnstown, and I'm truly honored and humbled to have this exhibit of mine in my hometown of Johnstown. And I'm very grateful to Angela and also Rachel, who have really worked hard to put this thing together. And it has given me a lot of exposure to my art. I welcome all of you to soak in the artworks which are exhibited here in the Art Center. Before I come to the title of my painting show, which is Shakti, or the feminine energy, the power of the feminine energy, let me give you a brief introduction about myself and my art journey. So, generally, it's the belief that artists are born, but I was not a born artist. I did not grow up seeing number 7 as the inverted nose like Picasso did, or drawing, all over my white walls at my house. I was not really passionate about art in childhood, but later on it must have been dormant, and later on something triggered, and I became very passionate about art. It is just that not as passionate as Vincent van Gogh, who would cut off his ears and mail it to his brother, but I was passionate enough to plunge myself completely into art, and even give up my academics and just take up art on a full-time basis. And I've been doing this for a long time. And in the beginning, it was very ironical that I did not even know how to draw a face, or even my 7 might not have looked like 7, And in my kindergarten, whenever my teacher sent some assignment home, if it was like coloring a flower or drawing a fruit, my sister had to do it for me. It's even now we laugh about it, but old saying, practice makes it perfect. And I have been practicing, and I'm still a work in progress, and I've been growing, and I wish to grow, and you can never say, okay, I've arrived. So I'm still doing all these artworks, and now I've gotten into digital art, which totally fascinates me, because it's the technology which gives us wings, so to say, to do whatever our imagination is not able to, catch up. Sometimes when we are painting with brush and canvas, a lot of things will be going on in our minds, and our hands may not be fast enough to do that. But with the computer, digital art, and digital technology, I'm able to bring out whatever expressions I want in a painting, or whatever feelings the paintings have to convey. I'm able to do it very successfully. So many of the artworks here which you see are digital works. Many of them are oil paintings, and some of them are acrylic on canvas. But after I started painting, in the initial stages, I used to do all the women, mostly women, and also the landscapes of India before I came to this country. And I like to portray the many variety of the jewelry they wear, and the costumes of different regions in India. So you see some of the works which have that kind of theme. And later on, when I came to this country, the lush landscapes just enamored me. I could not get my eyes off of the beautiful scenery here, especially in Johnstown. It's like a paradise, it's so beautiful. And I started doing some nature, like landscapes and mountains and snow-capped mountains, and you'll find some of them here in the exhibit. And I was very fortunate in the sense that my very first solo exhibition was attended by the former Prime Minister, Mr. Vajpayee, and also the former Prime Minister of Canada. Paul Martin, and they were very highly appreciative of my art, and that gave me tremendous boost and self-confidence. And since then, I haven't looked back. I've been very fortunate in displaying my art in various places, and also in 2012 I started a program on TV for Fox 5 Plus. In 2012 it was Global Television Networks, and the executive producer, Mrs. Nilima Mehra, took me under her wings, and she really groomed me, as so to say, and she gave me a lot of opportunities to host a show on her TV. It's called Utsav, a celebration of life is the theme, and I do a lot of painting shows there, and I showcase my paintings also on this TV show, and it airs every month once in the Washington area, Fox 5 Plus. And coming to my present journey of art, it's been very gratifying to experiment with various media, and I have dabbled in all sorts of art, like mixed media, acrylic, charcoal. You know, initially I learned from my friend in India, who is here in California now, and we're still very good friends, and you know, we always talk about art whenever we meet. And we have done plein air paintings together. But she was the one who taught me the basics in a very extremely professional manner. She was so good, you know, every single technique she taught has helped me tremendously in developing my own style. And but for that, I'm largely self-taught, and I like to experiment with various media, various themes, and you know, you see some of the modern art works. And at one time I was very inspired by a young boy who appeared on Oprah Winfrey's show, who was a master at doing these modern art pieces, and I started doing, and within 3 weeks I had like a whole basement covered with these modern art pieces. So I love to do traditional Indian themes, like this one where she's a devotee and there is Krishna. Um, she's praying to him, and I always bring the richness of the costumes, the jewelry, and in most of my paintings, if you see, I have lotuses. I love the philosophy for which lotuses stand. You know, lotus blooms amidst dirt and blooms in such a beautiful way, and nobody can tell that, you know, that's where it has emerged from, and it remains untouched by the dirt around it. And that is how one should be in life. You know, we may be surrounded by all negative things, but we should be a lotus flower, not bothered by any of that, and still give out our fragrance and beauty to the world. So you see a lot of them having that kind of connection between a woman's feelings and a lotus flower. Um, and of course, it's the queen of flowers, so I love to, even my name means lotus. Nalini means lotus in Sanskrit. So I'm a big fan of lotus flowers. So, and these are all abstract expressionism paintings. When I do the abstract expressionistic paintings, I want to bring out some meaning hidden. It is up to the viewers to interpret it in their manner, in the way they want to interpret. But I have some idea whenever I paint these. Like this is, I think this is entitled. This is titled "She Waits for Her, for that someone special." So you know, she has the peacock kind of dress on. She's in a very happy mood, even though her face is blank. The painting should speak to you, what she's thinking, how she's waiting with, you know, bated breath for her beloved to come. So, and this one is angels respond. So her prayers are so intense that there are angels appearing to grant her wishes. And this one is my favorite. It's called If the Wave Had a Form. Coming to talk about my theme for the exhibition, which is Shakti, the power of the feminine energy. It always appeals to me that the feminine energy is evident everywhere, especially artists. We can portray a range of emotions, feelings, and thoughts and expressions through feminine by giving them a feminine touch. So a lot of my paintings you see women empowerment, or just displaying the gorgeousness of Indian costumes, be it their stories. There are a lot of mythological stories from which I have drawn my theme from. On the other wall, there are all those paintings displayed. So that is Shakti. So this is if the wave had a form. Even nature, I feel, is feminine in its appearance. It's like creation. All of creation is Shakti. So when we create, we become mini gods creating. We are in the in the work of, in the habit of creating, just like God would have done. And I like to bring out perfection, perfect feelings, the emotions, the movement, the grace, and everything. So we do justice to the original creator. So that's about my story of how painting has been my love of life, and it's going to continue to be. And one more thing I would like to mention is I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer, and a lot of my paintings have been influenced by my experience as a Bharatanatyam dancer, be it the expressions or the grace of movement or the rich colors, the flow of a particular theme. All of those have some sort of dance in them. When you see a painting, it should speak to you. So you should see dance in them, in the paintings. So many of my paintings, I assume, reflect my mind as a dancer. So that's been my journey, and I hope you enjoy this show. And I'm very grateful to the Art Center for giving me this great opportunity. I'm honored and humbled, truly. Thank you. I've been very fortunate in auctioning some of my paintings for educational institution in India called Ekal Vidyalay in rural India, and also Karuna Charities, and both were facilitated by my mentor, Mrs. Nilima Mehra. And for the last 12 years, I have been auctioning my paintings, and there are very good, there's very good response for these paintings whenever I auction them. I've supported like more than 100 schools so far through my painting auctions. So if anybody is interested in auctioning off the paintings for a cause, I'll be very happy to bring my paintings in. Okay, this is a very special painting, one of my absolute favorites, and I kept it at the entrance as an invitation to view what is inside. This is titled Sculpture, When a Sculpture Dances. So in India, we have these sculptures all carved in stone, and they are so fine that even the jingles on the feet are separate from the foot. They are that they have achieved that kind of perfection. So I have tried to bring about that same quality of the stone appearance of the stone, you know, the greenish stone slabs from which these dancing feet have been carved. And this is one of my very favorite pieces. Welcome to my art show, and there is Lord Ganesha. Without praying to whom we don't undertake any endeavors. And this was done during my dance program. I was dancing, and as I was dancing, I put the glitter, and I had the glue, the tapes, and it came out very nice, and I'm very proud of this artwork.